fantastic to see so many people here today. It would be lovely to do this in person, but this is a good substitute for that, given the numbers anyway. Sorry, let me get rid of that. You please do mute yourselves. Please make sure you're muted while we're talking in the first part of this. The way we're going to run this is we're going to have set presentations, and then later on we're going to have some breakout rooms where you can ask questions more specifically about your programs. If you have general questions, you should have a Slido link. Please don't put them in the Q&A or the chat for this Zoom session. There should be a Slido link. People might look a little bit distracted, but chances are they'll be typing answers to your questions. What we'll do is we'll have a curated Q&A session towards the end of this general part. So fantastic. Welcome everyone again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief overview of UCL, why UCL, and why computer science at UCL. Carolyn Phelan's going to talk a little bit about our industry exchange network, where we work a lot with real clients. Alice is going to tell you something about careers, and Samantha Bottomley is going to tell you something about finance and scholarships. And then, as I said, we'll do a sort of general roundup Q&A, and then breakout sessions by program where you can ask more specific program focused questions. The programs are grouped into little groups, but I'll come to that later. So let me make a start. Why come to UCL? Well, it's a central London university. London's a brilliant place to be, but UCL is a pioneering university. The shape of the modern university is largely determined by what's happened at UCL. So we're nearly 200 years old. So in 1826, we were founded by a group who were inspired by Jeremy Bentham. So Jeremy Bentham's a famous philosopher. And his philosophy basically required that we should admit students regardless of race or religion. And later on, we actually admit with the first university to admit women on equal terms as well. And that sort of disruptive thinking still pervades UCL. We're still aiming to be pioneers. UCL was the first to have professors in law and medicine and architecture and chemistry and a whole variety of other things that you wouldn't think twice about these days as being part of a normal university education. But somebody started them, and as it happens, UCL started them. We've had our fair share of Nobel laureates, including, for us, the father of fiber optics, kind of important in actually making this session run. And although he didn't get a Nobel Prize, John Ambrose Fleming, who invented the valve, the thermionic valve, which was the precursor to the transistor, also was at UCL. So a lot of digital innovation has come from UCL as well. Overall, we're the second ranking UK university for research strength, and we're in the world's top 10 universities. So we're 8th ranked in the world, according to QS. How about CS at UCL? Well, there's a whole bunch of stats here, but we're quite a large computer science department, certainly in UK terms. We've got on the order of 130 academics and around about 1,200 taught students, about half undergraduate and about half postgraduate. We run many of the IXN projects I briefly mentioned and that Carolyn will talk about. So we've got a lot of interaction with industry and with other clients such as the NHS as well. And correspondingly, we've got a large number of PhD students and research staff and funded projects. One of the things that we have at the moment, so in the UK, PhD funding is largely provided through what are called centres for doctoral training. And we've got 3 of them. So we've got a doctoral training centre in foundational AI, one in cybersecurity, which is joint with 2 other departments, and one in AI for health, which again is joint with medical physics. UCL being a large department, what we have is we have a broad range of research groups, from the very foundational groups, and we still do a large amount of foundational research, to groups where we apply our knowledge more. That mixture is not accidental, it's a deliberate feature of what we do. So we do a lot of interdisciplinary work, but that interdisciplinary work is based on deep understanding of underlying principles and techniques. UCLCS was again rated #2 in the UK for research power, and #1 in England. And actually, as a department, we scored highest in the latest ref of any of the departments in UCL on a number of different metrics. So why did I tell you about research? Well, research informs our teaching. Yeah, you're coming here to take part in a talk program. And one of our USPs is that because of the breadth of our research, we can actually run talk programs across a rather large range of activities, and yet you will still be taught by people who are expert in those areas. And so we've got a significant number of postgraduate courses. We run a smaller number of undergraduate courses. And we've got some new and upcoming programs. So we've got a new undergraduate program based in UCL East in robotics and AI. And we have a new MSc program also based out there on systems engineering for the Internet of Things that will run for the first time from this September. So UCL East is a large development. It's about £600 million worth of development. It's the largest development in UCL, essentially since shortly after it was founded. It's going to grow our campus very significantly. The computer science activities out there are 2 groups of activity likely to be based out there, at least initially. And they are the robotics and AI type activities, but also the Global Disability Innovation Hub has moved to UCL East as well. And so the MSc in DDI will also be based out of UCL East. I've talked a bit about research, I've talked a bit about our teaching, but one of the things I'd like to show you briefly is some of the activities that our taught students get up to. We have these interactions with industry, and we're very well known for that. Motion input is the result of one of those pieces of work. So it's an activity that we did in collaboration with Intel, Microsoft, and actually the NHS as well, and IBM. And some of our taught students have developed software that allows for gesture and voice-based input. And that's undergoing continuous development. So this is a tweet from the CEO of Intel, but I've got similar tweets from Microsoft and others as well. And the software actually is available on the Microsoft store now.
My name is Paris and I am a 31-year-old mother of 2. At the age of 26, I was diagnosed with MND. So how am I playing video games with my children?
My name is Sinead and I'm a computer science student at University College London. I came onto this project when Professor Dean shared his ideas on a project in which users could interact with digital devices without the need to use their hands.
Working as a professor of computer science, we were amazed by the technological advancements our students were making with motion input and decided to invite mentors from Intel, IBM and Microsoft to provide guidance which has proven invaluable.
He tasked us to create something that would really make a difference to people's lives. An application that could give those with fine motor skill conditions opportunities that typically abled people take for granted. We knew motion input was the answer, but there were still so many questions. We agreed straight away that we needed this application to function universally on any Intel-based machine without the need to purchase expensive bespoke peripherals or alter third-party code. OpenVINO was the breakthrough. We settled upon a grid-based hybrid facial navigation technology that could trace the user's eyes or head movement to control the mouse pointer, whilst an action like opening or closing the mouth or raising their eyebrows could be mapped to a mouse button click. Motion input isn't just confined to facial movement. Hand gesturing using Windows touchpoints could be utilized anywhere from schools to hospital surgeries. With a simple Intel-based machine and webcam, motion input could lead to massively increased population health benefits, or even utilized in care homes where the elderly, who may previously have struggled with grasping objects with their hands, could play online games like chess with their friends or family.
Imagine you had a condition where you found physical movement challenging. Maybe you had a motor neuron condition or were a patient confined to a hospital bed.
The potential for motion input to change lives is limitless.
Okay, so that's just an example of some of the project work that our students do. Clearly, there's a wide variety of MSc programs, and some of those MSc programs and some of the projects on MSc programs are going to be more research focused. Some of them are going to be more focused on working with industry. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Carolyn now to talk a little bit about that IXN program. So Carolyn, over to you.
Thank you, Steve. I'll just share my slides. So thank you. As you will have seen from Steve's presentation, it runs through a lot of what we do in the sort of the taught side at UCL, that it's really, really important to us that students at all levels get the opportunity to work on, real problems that are of interest and are of importance to society today. It's not just a case of looking at things in a purely academic sense. And so, as Steve said, I'm here to talk about our IXN program, and that stands for Industry Exchange Network. You saw Dean in the video that Steve showed, and him and another one of our professors, Graham Roberts, set up the IXN program over 10 years ago now. And this is really to formalise, the idea was to sort of formalise the idea of having students work with industry. You're here to hear about the postgraduate programs, and they take place as part of a subset of IXN, which we call IXN Innovation. And the use of the innovation term there is to really capture the idea that by the time you are a postgraduate student with us, you will be able to innovate, to invent as part of your project. And the idea is that, you know, as part of your MSc studies, you will have a final project which will build on the things that the modules that we've taught you. These are usually 3 months over the summer. Some of the new programs have projects started in January. You'll be able to sort of discuss the details of that a little bit more with your program staff in the breakout rooms. And the idea is that we have industry will come to us with problems. You know, there are real life issues that they want us to look at. And the IXN program fits that in to the taught requirements of your degree, which is, as we say, is that you do a 3-month project to sort of really consolidate the taught content and the rest of your studies. And so what we're trying to do is give you the opportunity to work with an industrial partner with the project that you complete your studies with us. So that we have, as you can imagine, this has been going for 10 years. We have quite a well-established process now. And what happens is, as we said, the topics are defined by companies, and then we refine them. And so in general, companies will come to us with topics. You know, sometimes in the case of as is the case of the video that you saw just now, academics will be working closely with industry, and the topic will sort of have been arrived at, you know, collaboratively. But what we have is this structure in place is to make sure that if somebody comes with us with an industrial project, you know, that we have the support structure in place to make sure that it's sort of, that goes through a sort of assessment and acceptance process where we just ensure that it's appropriate for the level of studies that you're doing, and also your MSc. You know, quite often the project coordinators work quite closely together. So quite often somebody might come to us with a project, and, you know, we might look at it and say, well, actually, that's more appropriate, maybe not for finance that I work on, but perhaps general computer science. So we will then, you know, move projects about to make sure that they're the most appropriate ones for you. The other nice thing about having this formalized structure in place, which has, you know, as I say, has been there for sort of many years now, is that some students come to us, especially if you've worked, maybe you've got a bit of experience, you might have established partnerships that you want to work with. And we will be able to, you may even be sponsored, something like that, and we would be able to sort of work with your sponsor or work with your partnerships, so that if you wish to bring a partnership with you, we would let you work on that for your project, subject to the same sort of triage that we do on all the projects. So, you know, that is something that we like to give the students as much flexibility as we possibly can to work with the people that you would like to work with. So in addition to the sort of, you know, contact with industry, we also have a strong sort of academic support in place. You know, we are sort of aware that this is for your, you know, for your degree, the report that you write will, you know, counts towards 1/3 of your marks. And so we have a dedicated project coordinator assigned to each program. And we also, when you come to do the project, in addition to your industry supervisor, you will also be allocated an academic supervisor from UCL, which will be able to support the process as well. And here's a sort of a snapshot of some of our partners, as I'm sure it's no surprise from Steve's video. There's IBM, there's Microsoft in there. But there's also some other, you know, people like the NHS work very closely with us on some of our programs, and also on the finance programs. We've got both sort of slightly more traditional financial institutions such as HSBC, Santander, the sort of big banks. But we've also got sort of more disruptive companies as well, such as, you know, the sort of Vesuvio Labs, which is a insurtech startup. And so you can see there is a sort of a massive range of companies that we work with. There is no sort of, as far as we are concerned, there is no barrier to sort of being too large or too small to work with us. Ultimately, it's about the academic content of what you might get to work on. And the final thing is just to talk about the outcomes, you know, which I'm sure is what you're most interested in. So the main thing is that you will produce a standalone dissertation of about 50 pages, you know, and that is a significant piece of work and something, you know, a significant piece of research and something to be very proud of. There is also opportunities to do, and some of the pictures I've got on the slide here is from what we call student showcases, where you have the opportunity to go and present your work, which is actually seen by industry professionals. It's not just an academic exercise. You can see a front row full of, in the bottom right hand picture, you can see a front row full of very intent looking people, and some of those people are from industry who are there with a genuine interest of what you've produced and what it actually means to their business. So this is a real bit of work that you are doing. And also, of course, sometimes that does lead on to hiring opportunities as well. So that is, you know, that is sort of IXN in a nutshell. Do please ask, you know, you're welcome to contact us if you've got more questions. Also, do please ask, you know, your program staff in the breakout rooms about how this translates into your individual programs as well. So thank you very much. I don't know if we have any, do you want to leave questions to the end, Joe? Yeah, okay.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. Next, we're going to hear from Alice about careers. One of the things we care a lot about, one of the things that we're quite good at doing, is preparing people for careers in industry, and in particular in the tech industry, but more broadly than that.
Thanks, Steve. Yep, so I'm going to speak for a few minutes about careers, next steps, and how we can support you. So yeah, I'm from UCL Careers, a team of about 65 career professionals, all to support you. And within that, we have a team which exclusively supports those in the engineering faculty, which is where computer science sits. And some common questions that we get from students and indeed graduates is, so what are the destinations? So where do our UCL computer science master's graduates go to? So I'm going to share a bit of data about that. And then I'm also going to talk a bit about the career support that we offer for you. So how we will support you to achieve your career goals. UCL computer science graduates are highly in demand, come out with academic skills and also with the huge amount of industry experience that you gain. They're very much in demand and have fantastic outcomes across UCL. So it's one of the most highly paid and best outcomes across UCL and really competitive across Russell Group as well. And so this is from data. So 15 months after graduation, all graduates are asked about where they currently are, where are they working, where are they studying? And across the last 3 years, what we're finding, 94.5% are in highly skilled work or further study. So really good outcomes there. 42,000 median salary, 47,000 mean salary. And so we know that that includes lots of different starting points. So some people join us straight after bachelor's, some are reskilling, career changing, etc. But our graduates are very, very high in demand, and going into the tech sector, you can expect decent salary and progression. So just to kind of run through, as we might expect, where are they going? The top 3 sectors: IT and technology, accounting, financial services, manufacturing. And so lots of different roles within these sectors. And I wanted to show this just to show that the breadth of where our graduates are going are actually pretty broad. As you might expect, programmers, software developers, 41%. But then actually, because of the breadth of courses that we have and the breadth of aspirations and motivations of where people want to go, there's also a really broad range of where people are taking and using their computer science knowledge and skills as well. So within business analysts, system designer, within finance as well. So kind of technical roles within finance, cybersecurity, management consultants, etc. And not that this is limiting, but just to say that it's really broad. So whatever your goals and aspirations of how you want to apply your knowledge from these masters, a really broad range of in the past where our graduates have gone. And here is just a list from that data. And you can access this data yourself, by the way. So if you search what do UCL graduates do, you can access a dashboard where you can explore specifically by program where people have gone and what they're doing. So this is a list of the top employers, by which we mean they've hired multiple UCL MSc graduates, UCL Computer Science MSc graduates in the last 3 years. As we might expect, technology, finance, large multinationals that you might expect. But what's not on here is the hundreds of companies that are hiring maybe only one UCL student. So really emphasizing that our graduates go into all different sectors, but also all different types of company. So small companies, startups, scale-ups, as well as multinationals, local companies here and those across the globe. So that's a bit of information about where our graduates have gone. And I think what's in there in that question about what have others done is actually a question about you, right? So what people can really be asking is like, will this master's help me get where I want to go? Will it help me achieve my goals? And so, yeah, we have a comprehensive range of career support from our career professionals that you can access whilst you're here at UCL and also for 3 years after you graduate. So kind of pretty long-term support to get you where you want to go. And just some examples of what that can look like. And so we offer one-to-one support, and we offer it both in person and online. We find that students are still wanting to access both of those, where you can talk about anything. So asking about career guidance, whether you have no idea how to navigate the job market, no idea what you want to do, whether you're very specific about what you want to get to. So we can discuss any of those topics, lots of application support, interview practice, support with networking, using LinkedIn, anything you want to discuss. So one-to-one support, lots of workshops and skills on developing your career management skills. So really seeing this as a skill set that you develop and will help you for this next step, but also as you move forwards at all times in your professional career with lots of those different aspects, making effective and informed career decisions, networking, applications, interviews, thinking about disabilities and health conditions, anything that's going on for you career-wise will help develop those skills. We have a fantastic vacancies board where employers advertise with UCL. So some offer exclusive vacancies with across UCL or to the faculty or particular courses. And this vacancies board, so we have large employers on there, like multinationals, but we also have smaller companies that are really keen to hire from UCL. And last year that had over 14,000 vacancies, and actually a big proportion of those are in tech. So lots of vacancies and opportunities for part-time roles whilst you're at UCL, as well as for graduate roles afterwards. And we also run a full program of career events. So really wanting to create opportunities for you to connect with employers to find out what does it mean to work in that sector? What does a day-to-day look like? And we try and make these as interactive as possible. So really giving you opportunity to network, to ask your questions, to kind of ask what's on your mind and what's important to you. So here's just some examples of what our team have done and the kind of most relevant ones related to the topics you'll be thinking about. And just as kind of example of this is our program this year, be kind of similar and parallel for next year. But wanted to highlight, and I won't go through all of those, but we have different formats. So some might be a sector panel discussion where we'll get experts, industry experts from different sectors and different size organizations to talk about the sector with discussion and networking. We also have kind of more interactive sessions where maybe one company might offer a more interactive case, like a case study or a business case, or so you can kind of get more of a sense of like, what does it mean to work with those. And we also have the big events like Careers Fair, so the IT and Technology Careers Fair, Banking and Finance Careers Fair. with lots of employers. So yeah, fundamental message, fantastic outcomes that our graduates go on to, and comprehensive career support for you whilst you're here at UCL, and also for 3 years beyond. So I'll finish there and happy to answer questions. Slido. Thanks.
Let's hold the questions for the Q&A at the end, but thanks very much, Alice, for that. One thing I should say is there are other opportunities as well. So there are internal opportunities to carry on education through PhDs as well. So we're a research-focused department, and our lifeblood are PhD students. So as well as a route out into industry, we also have a variety of routes to PhD places as well. Okay, thanks very much, Alice. We'll move on now, I think, to Samantha.
So, hi everyone, as Steve said, my name is Samantha Bottomley, and I'm the Learning Technology Manager for CS. I currently also deal with the scholarships for our postgraduate programs. As you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, we do have a page on the CS website specifically for our scholarships, which covers both undergraduate and postgraduate. And if you're sort of going to go and do a quick explore, it's under the study section, which is where you can also access the details about all of our programs. The page itself covers details of all of the available scholarships, and that includes things like the opening and closing dates, the actual funding for each scholarship, and things like that. On the slide here, I've included an overview of 2 of the scholarships which are about to open at the end of this month. That's the UCL FAA Scholarship for Machine Learning and the Snowden Masters Scholarship. So full details of both of those are available on the web page. The UCL FAA one is specifically for students who are ordinarily a resident USA, and the Snowden Masters Scholarship, as it mentions here, is aimed at elevating excellent disabled students. Last year, I believe it was run directly through our GDI hub, and this year the Snowden Trust have kind of taken it over themselves. Some of you might already be aware of our DeepMind and our CS Excellence scholarships. We are lucky enough to be one of a small number of institutions to benefit from the support of Google and DeepMind because of our sort of amazing relationship with them. But both of those scholarships are currently pending final approval. So we'll update our pages once everything is in place. So I do recommend taking a look regularly, especially seeing as if we find out about new scholarships. And I think there's a couple sort of currently in the works. You know, we will update our pages as and when they become available. If you've got any questions about our departmental scholarships, then please do email us at the address shown on the slide. And if you've got any questions about sort of the centrally provided ones, I would suggest contacting our central student funding team, which is studentfunding@ucl.ac.uk. And also I do know that our PGT program administrators do have some sort of links to additional external funding. So, you know, as and when we become aware of those kinds of things, you know, we sort of add them into our portfolio of things that we will share with applicants when they ask. I will pop in the chat sort of the links and the email addresses here. So this is really just sort of a whistle-stop tour effectively of our finance and scholarships. So I will say thank you for your time, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the event.
Thanks very much, Samantha. Okay, folks, what we're going to do now is we're going to move to a Q&A session. So I'm going to hand over to Jo. Jo.
Hello, thanks, Steve. Hi, everyone. I'm Jo Stiles. I'm the Teaching and Learning Manager for the department, and I'm really pleased to be here to facilitate a Q&A session to try and get through as many of your questions that you've posted in Slido to our panel of experts here. So I'm going to start off in a sort of sequential kind of way with talking about housekeeping of the applications. So I'm going to invite Samantha if she could answer some of these for us. So there's lots of questions about whether we offer part-time courses or why we don't, questions about maths knowledge, do we interview, what would be a good reference, what's the deadline, and all of that. So I'm going to pick these off one by one and ask Samantha to help with this. So first off, Samantha, probably maybe the most important thing, what is the deadline for masters applications to our programs?
So it is the 31st of March, 5 p.m. What I would say though is that it is probably better to have sooner rather than later, as all of our programs are extremely popular. But it is also worth sort of just checking back as we do get nearer the deadline, as it is possible that some programs may have the opportunity to extend their application period.
Brilliant, thank you. So in terms of applying early, it's useful to do that because we're popular. That's the kind of answer to that, isn't it? As you said.
Yeah. So I mean, there is also, you know, as much as there is the possibility that we can extend the application period, you know, there is also the potential that if a program does fill up, that we may have to close early.
And at the moment, we don't offer our programs part-time. Can you tell us a bit more about why that is and what we're doing about that?
Yeah, so one of my colleagues did actually post a really good answer to this, actually. Essentially, it's because of the fact that it does take quite a lot to administer a part-time program. And so what we need to do is make sure that what we are offering part-time students is the same level of quality as we are offering our full-time students. So it is something that we're investigating, but it's not something that we can offer right now.
Brilliant, thank you. So in terms of our admissions tutors making decisions, if somebody were to apply kind of now, when could they expect to receive a decision on their application?
We normally aim to respond within approximately 8 weeks. So it does vary program by program, but generally you are looking at around about 8 weeks for a response.
Thank you. What about references, Samantha? What can you tell us about what makes a good person to be a referee for an applicant? Is there any guidance on this?
It normally needs to be someone who knows you well. So ideally, we would be looking for an academic reference where possible, as at least one of your referees. And that's purely because of the fact that they can tell us about you academically, sort of what you're like when you're studying. But we do also appreciate that not everyone is coming directly from undergraduate study. So really what your referee needs to be able to sort of demonstrate to us is kind of what your sort of working style is like, how you adapt. Because obviously you're going to be doing a lot of self-directed study as a master's student. So we need to make sure that you are able to sort of take the initiative and work by yourself.
Brilliant, thank you. So if somebody'd got a professional reference from a research intern, that would be just as valuable, and that person wouldn't be disadvantaged by putting them down as a referee?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, great, thank you. Is there a word limit or page limit on the personal statement?
There is a word limit. I think it's actually a character limit from memory, and I think it's 4,000 characters.
Great, thank you. If somebody wants to apply for two of our programs, or maybe more, what's the situation with that? How would they do that?
The maximum number of programs you can apply for is 2. It used to not be the case, but the sort of new situation is that it's a maximum of 2. And so you would submit them in exactly the same way. So you would completely refill out the application form. It wouldn't be a case of just sort of, it would automatically copy over. And so it's worth definitely considering what 2 programs you're applying for. I did see the question, I think it was about MSc Computer Science and Software Systems Engineering. So, I mean, those two programs in particular, the MSc Computer Science is sort of more of a generalist type program, whereas SSE is sort of what we consider one of our advanced master's programs, because it does require that you have experience. So when you're looking at them, it's sort of maybe worth considering what does your brand and what you want to do. That should direct what you're applying for.
Great, thank you. Samantha, this might be that I need to ask an academic this question, but I'm going to try you anyway because your knowledge is incredible. Can you tell us about programming and maths experience on our programs? I imagine that they vary on the entry requirements according to which program you want to study.
That would be down to an admissions tutor, I think, to probably advise on that with regards to their specific program, because it does vary. So that's probably a question maybe best posed in one of the breakout rooms.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, it's brilliant. Carolyn, can I come to you to ask you some questions about the IXN? So we had a question about whether the IXN is available to all programs.
Yes, it is. The proportion of students who do projects through IXN does vary from program to program, but in general, yes, it is. And you'll be able to discuss that. You know, you can ask questions like to do with the proportion and the type of companies that your particular programs of interest have during the breakout rooms. So in general, for finance, it tends to be relatively high. For some of the other programs, it can be slightly lower, but you know, that does rather reflect the interests of the students rather than any sort of change in sort of availability of companies. But your program staff will be able to answer that in much more detail than I can.
Great, thank you. We also had a question about the difference between IXN and placements.
Sure. So IXN is basically, as I say, it's a scheme that we've set up that allows you to do your projects in association with an industry partner on a topic that we have approved and that is of interest to them. You're not formally employed by that company, and so you know, it's still, there are agreements that us and the company and yourselves have to sign, and that's ultimately, you know, really for your own protection, to ensure that, you know, you are working on, you know, you have the support in place, you're working on something that's relevant to your studies. A placement is obviously tends to take place, also known generally, we think of placements and internships as kind of the same thing, with reference to the MSCs, and that tends to take place when there is a formal employment contract, even if it's a short-term employment contract between yourselves and the companies. Quite often, and this was what I alluded to in the presentation about having our support structure in place, if you've got your own links as well, you know, if you have a sort of an internship arranged, you know, we can look, we're happy to talk with your, in general, we're happy to talk with your company and see if you can arrange to do a project during your internship, which you can then write about for your dissertation as well. So if you have, you know, we don't tend to arrange placements, internships which have a formal employment contract. However, if you are offered that opportunity, it's really worth talking to us, because, you know, almost always we'll be able to, you know, work something out with your company that you can do this as part of your studies as well.
Thank you. Carolyn, another question for you. If there are international students, should they still be attending the university sort of on campus in term 3 when they'd be doing their project? Well,
I mean, term 3 I think of as the sort of the term after Easter. So obviously that's the assessment period, and you know, there are this year there are some assessments that are face-to-face. I assume that will be the same next year. So from that term, they certainly should be here for term 3. I suspect what the students actually asking is if they need to be here over the summer from June to September. Now, the answer to that is some students do need to go, you know, to live away from UCL during that time. We wouldn't recommend it. What we find is that it will vastly, you know, cut down the opportunities that you have to do the projects and the opportunities that might arise as part of those projects. So, you know, you no doubt anybody, I think you can't pick up a newspaper these days without without reading about how more and more companies want to get people back in the office. And so even with a project where you don't have a formal employment contract, it's likely that you are going to be asked to go in for meetings and things like that. So it's not the sense that it's impossible, but I think we need to be realistic that, you know, it is a year-long course, and the people that get the most out of that year-long course and out of that opportunity, you know, spend the whole year, you know, engaged in London with UCL.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, we've come to the end of our time for questions, so I'm going to hand back to Steve. Thank you. Thanks
very much, Jo. And before I go any further, can I thank all the speakers today, actually. So thanks very much, Carolyn, Alice, Samantha, and Jo for chairing this session as well. Thanks very much. And for everyone in the background answering questions who you won't necessarily have seen. What we're going to do now is we're going to open some breakout rooms. Now, hold on, don't go there yet. What's going to happen is that the staff associated with the different degree courses are going to leave and go to those breakout rooms. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen a little longer. So we are going to hold, for those that are physically present, an on-campus open evening on the 9th of February from 2 till 7 p.m. So you can register for that at this link address. Okay, so when it comes to breakout rooms, we've got a number of different breakout rooms. If you look for the program or programs in which you're interested, they're ordered by alphabetically here, and you'll find different breakout rooms. And in a second, I'll ask you to go there. So we have some useful links as well, which we can share with you. I'll leave that up as a very last slide, but we can share those with you offline as well. So we've come to the end of this part of the afternoon. Thanks very much for coming. Look forward to you applying, look forward to seeing you in the future. Now is the time when we can move over to those breakout rooms. There will be some links, but we'll make sure you get hold of those. So thanks, everyone.